the topics we already have checked in class. So first, I want you to take a brief look of this quiz, okay? Just a brief look of it. As you can see here, we have, it says quiz number 6, level 5.
Quiz number 6.
We have here a short phrase which says, solo el esfuerzo constante y la lucha permanente logran alcanzar los sueños. Okay, so here, this is a Google Drive form. So here you are going to, please stop watching draws, my friends. Okay, thanks. So here, as you can see, students are going to write their name. It says here, look at the picture, write and take cross. And this is one part, okay? So I'm going to share right now our slides in order to explain what we did. Um, okay, I don't know if you can see it right now.
Yes, Santi.
Okay, so my name is Santiago Tapia, and my friends are Gabriela Guaita, Luis Gavilanes, and Armando Carwell. So, the first of all, we are going to check this, which what is the setting? So the setting says, let me, okay. It says an EFL teacher from an English institute need to develop a final exam for elementary students. This assessment will be used for two purposes. One purpose is to make sure that students who pass the level are prepared for instruction at the next level. In order to do this, teacher used these results of this final exam along with other assessments given during the course to make summative decisions about which students will pass to the next level of English. And the second purpose is to help students to improve, obviously, their English skills. So my classmate is going to present you the next part, okay?
Okay, so
Yes.
the principle of the language assessment, as we can see, we have the quiz 6, it's for level 5. And please, the next slide. So, okay, we have here the validity.
Validity, yes.
As we know, the extent to which inferences made for an assessment result in appropriate, meaningful, and useful in terms of purpose of the assessment. So as we know, we have seen that a valid test measures exactly what it proposed to measure and does not measure irrelevant variables. What does that mean? In this case, we have this example of read and complete. For example, in this case, the student is given a reading test about the Polylog pizza, and a valid test will measure the reading ability, such as identifying general or specific information of the text, not his or her prior knowledge about loved pizza. And about the reliability, a reliable test is consistent and dependable. If you give the same test to the same student or match the students on two different occasions, this test should yield similar results. So, reliability actually doesn't really deal with the test itself. It deals with the results of the test. So the test results should be consistent, and we can take a look on two scores below. We have the scores on test A and the scores on test B, the differences. Next slide, please. Then we have the authenticity. Essentially, when you made a claim for authenticity in a test task, you are saying that this task is likely to be enacted in the real world. Many test item types fail to stimulate real-world tasks. So as we can see, we have in the test, look at the picture and read and write tick or cross. Also, we had an activity that is read and complete. And As we see, the language in the test is natural, the topics are meaningful for the learner, and the tasks present a real-world task. And at the end, as practicality in the context of language classroom is to make sure that using an assessment will be practical. So several activities are involved in using an assessment, including developing the assessment, administering into the students, and recording the performance and reporting this to the stakeholders. So as we know, practicality can be simplified, defined as the relationship between available resources. So for the test that we have, we can see that the resources that are required are available. So we can say that the assessment will be practical to develop and to administer and to score. So the teacher's time for the development might include questions such as using the picture that we see to use for the assessment and developing the scoring method. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Abita.
Okay, classmates, now I'm going to explain the administrative procedures and instructions, okay, related to this assessment, to this final test for elementary children. Okay, we need to have in consideration what is administrative procedures. So we need to understand that administrative procedures take in consideration time, place, environment, and resources to take a test. So here we have three aspects that are important that we need to take in considerations before applying an assessment test. Okay, it's important to specify the procedures for administering the assessment. It's important to discuss the activities involved in administering classroom-based assessment. And it is important to take in consideration the role of the instructions and how to write it. Why? Because we need to have a clear idea that this test doesn't need to be hard or difficult for children. It's totally the opposite because as we know, they are children and this test need to have clear instructions and an easy procedure. Okay, please next slide. So here we have the administrative procedure for this final test. Okay, what is important in any administrative procedure? It is important to prepare the test setting. It's important to provide an encouraging test environment and communicate the instructions, okay? These are general aspects, but according to this final test, here we have seven steps, or here is the information, what will be the administrative procedure for this final test. Okay, number one, the test will be online in Moodle, okay? This is general information, okay? We need to understand that the administrative procedure is the general information that we need to provide to our students according to how will be developed this final test. Okay, so that is why here we have the step number one, the test will be online in Moodle. Here I think is Moodle and Google Forms. Second, we need to, students need to have camera, speakers, and microphone, okay? Number three, students will have a practice test before. Why? Because they need to have a clear idea about how will be the final test, okay? And here we have the second aspect. Here we have provide an encouraging test environment, and it is in the step number 3. Number 4, the class will be developed before the class. It will be develop a relaxing activity previous the test. Why? Because we need that students be relaxed. They don't need to be stressed previous the final test. Step number 5, the test will be divided into parts, reading and writing and listening part. And no, here is, I'm sorry, here is the speaking part. Step number 6, the first part will take 15 minutes, and the second part 1 hour and 30 minutes, because it is prepared for 2 hours, okay? And the step number 7, the second part, it will be in pairs in breakout rooms via Zoom, because here we have the facility, because it will be an online test, because as we know, we cannot apply a physical test, okay? So it is developed for an online test. That's why here we have breakout rooms in Zoom. For the second part, that is the speaking part. Please, next. What about the test setting? We need to have a clear idea about the test setting that we are going to take in consideration. Here, for example, for this test, for this final exam, we have aspects of the test setting that need to be prepared and specific preparations according the test. So the aspect about the time, the specific preparation, as I said before, this final test is for 2 hours. Place, as we know, it could be at home or any place at home and in the website, okay, because as we know, we are going to use the internet. What will be the physical conditions? Well, we need to have a playful place with no distractors. The materials and equipment, this will be electronic devices to log into the test, camera, microphone, and speakers. The personnel to administer the assessments, of course, we as professors. So here is the teacher. Please, next slide. Okay, now we are going to continue with the instructions. Instructions are more specific. Administrative procedures are general, and instructions are more specific in order to be easily the final test. So here we can provide instructions to our students before the test and during the test, okay? So here we have some instructions before the test. One of them is students have been informed about the test 2 days before. Students will be noticed about the final scores, that it will be 20 over 20. Requirements for the test have been discussed 2 days before, because as we know, in some cases, some students doesn't have camera or they have problems with their internet. So we need to discuss these aspects. The time for the test has been informed 2 days before, okay? Because as we know, we need to specify a specific a time for the test. And students will have to be 3 minutes before the test start. The test will start 5 minutes after the class has begun. The test will start at 1 and 5 p.m. Students will be evaluated in writing, reading, and speaking. Students will have to complete information and provide cell information. This cell information is for the speaking part. And students will be evaluated their understand of the target language, okay, in the reading section. Please, next slide. Now we are going to continue with instructions the day of the test, okay, during the test, before the test. Please, next slide. Santi. Santi. I thought my classmate had a problem with his symptom internet connection. So please, Prof, just 1 minute.
Okay, of course. Communicating.
Okay, next slide. Okay, now instructions during the test. Okay, we are going to suppose that we are in the day where when students are taking the test. So the students will have to log into the Zoom session because we need to have an evidence, and that's why I said that they need to have camera because we need to have the evidence. And at the same time, we have to go to the link. Well, students, here is the link to go to the online test. Okay, step 2, students will have to turn on their cameras, as I said before. Students will have 15 minutes to complete part 1 because it is a really easy part. And the test will start at 5 past 1 p.m. and the platform will close 20 past 1 p.m. And students will be noticed about the final score. Of course, as I said before, this final score is 20/20. Okay, now instructions for the part 1. In part 1, we have here 5 questions. Okay, here we have the image, and we start with the question 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So for questions 2 to 6, students will have to answer yes or no according what they can see in the image. Okay, so here we have an image. Here they have to answer yes or no according to what they have already seen. Okay, please, next slide. In part 2, we have the reading and writing. Here, the instructions for this part is the next. For question 2 to 6, after the reading, students have to complete the sentences with information from the reading. Okay, here we have some questions to fill in the gaps, sorry, according to the reading. Okay, so here we have the instruction for this part. Okay, so please, next slide. And finally, for the part 3, speaking. Here we have the instructions. After the first and second part, students will have to wait to be assigned into a breakout rooms in Zoom because it is more easily to work in pairs. Each student will have 5 minutes to answer questions in part 1 and describe the picture in part 2. As you can see, here we have the first part and the second part for the speaking. And finally, speaking activity will be scored using a rating scale or a rubric. Okay, so these are only the instructions, okay? So we are going to continue with the explanation according to this final test. Please, next slide. So that's all about the administrative procedures and the instructions. Thanks for your attention. And next, my classmate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, this step is about the scoring method used. In this test, it is used a limited production response. Okay, it is a limited production response because the students had to answer the test by answering with a short word, short phrase, or a short sentence. This test consists of 2 parts. Sorry. This test consists of two parts. The first part, the instruction says, look at the picture, read each statement, and read tick if it is correct, and cross if it is not correct. Talking about the statement. In order to score in this part of the test, we need to have an answer key. Please, the next slide. The
Yeah.
second part of the text, of the test is a reading section, which says read and complete. Students have to read a paragraph, and then they have to complete each statement with a short answer elicited from the reading. Please, the next slide. And we have the answer key for the first part of the test. In order to get the final grade of the first part, we are going to focus on the number of correct answers that students replied. Please, the next slide. That is the answer key of the second part, which is the same thing. Which it is the same thing. To get the final score, we need to focus on the number of correct answers. Please, the next slide. In order to do the report, the teacher will get the final score of each student according to the correct number of answers. The final score is the adding up of each correct answer. As this is a two-part test, teacher has to provide some feedback because in the reading part there is some distractors to complete it. So I think the teacher must provide some feedback when the students receive their results of the test. Students or stakeholders will receive the final score so that they can see how well was their performance in the test. And finally, the final score is around 20 points. That's all our presentation. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
According to
bro.
the
Yes.
speaking test.
Luis, this is my part. Thanks. So, Prof, talking about the speaking test, as you can notice before, we have also speaking test. So the first part is going to be like how can I say this? The Cambridge exams, maybe the first part, is like to answer some questions. For example, here we have, what's your name? How are you? Where do you live? What's your favorite color? And what is your favorite food? This is in order to know how well the student listen and understand our instructions. For example, as Armando said before, this is a kind of test which was implemented to students who are maybe between 8 and 9 years old in an institute. In fact, this is a real test. So in order to apply this speaking test, this and the first part, we have to notice how much our students understand of what we are saying in class. For example, if I say, where do you live? And the student or students do not understand, there is a problem, or maybe we have to apply a kind of feedback or reinforcement or something like that. And here we have the second part. As Armando said before, the student here has to describe the picture. For example, I can see some trees, a car, a dog, a girl, a boy, a house, and so on. So, is there the watchback effect? Well, so here we have first a little concept. As we already know, It says the watchback effect is a concept prominent in applied linguistics. It refers to the extent to which introduction and use of a test influences language teachers and learners to do things they would not otherwise do that promote or inhibit language learning. And it is usually defined as the impact of assessment on learning and teaching. Backwash or watchback effect is positive if the assessment results in favorable changes in learning and teaching strategies, and it is negative if the changes are undesired and discourage students from adopting a deep approach to the learning. So as I said at the first of the presentation, the purpose of this assessment is to help the students to develop their English skills. And I think if we as a teachers, we expose them to the language, I think there is going to be a positive watchback, because this way they can also learn how to communicate in the foreign language with other people. For example, if a person, I don't know, of foreign people or something goes to our student and says, hey, how are you? What's your name? And tell me more about you. So our student is going to be able to answer these questions and also establish a kind of communication in a basic level, but the students are going to understand what is happening. Okay. So we have here the scoring methods. It specifies how the teacher will arrive at a score on the basis of the student's performance. It consists of the criteria for evaluating the correctness or quality of the student's responses. The score to be reported are the procedures to be followed in arriving at the score. The scoring method is an essential component of the assessment task template that the teacher will use for creating assessment tasks. Also, it is important to specify the scoring method when you create the assessment task template before the teacher gives the assessment to their students, okay? So as you can notice before, we have a writing part and we have also a speaking part. So we are going to talk, I'm going to talk about, for example, here, analytic and holistic rubrics. As you can see, here's a holistic rubric. It says, score 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And you can see here at the description, for example, 5, it demonstrates complete understanding of the problem. All requirements of the task are included in response. 4, demonstrate considerable understanding of the problem. All requirements of the task are included. So we have here some descriptions in order to score our students. And we have here an example of analytic rubric for writing. As you can see here, we have some points, some features which they are expert, they have 4 points, or accomplished, capable, or beginner, and we have the quality of writing. For example, if they are required to write a large piece of writing or something like that, or something with more words, for example. So they are going to be scored like this. But here in the writing part, as you can see, our students are children, so we cannot use this analytic rubric for writing, because at this level, we as teachers, we should score their trying. It doesn't matter if they make mistakes.
Of course, yeah.
And obviously it do matter the fact that they are trying to communicate in another language and understand what they are listening. Okay, so obviously we are going to use here a holistic rubric, and also the speaking part. We have here a speaking part, the holistic rubric. We can use the same. We have here another analytic rubric for speaking, which considers vocabulary, accuracy, fluency, interaction, pronunciation. Okay, but it's the same case, because also we cannot use this kind of analytic rubric because we cannot score the fluency or interaction and pronunciation, because we know that students at elementary level are going to make some mistakes, but the purpose here is they try to communicate in their words, and also they make the effort of communicate. That is going to be what us, that we as a teachers are going to score in our students. So that's it, Prof. Here we have references.
References, good.
That's all.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Thank you. So, Abby, I don't know how much time left we have here. Can we do another group, or shall we close this session?
Let's close this session.
Let's close this one, right? Because we have only a few minutes. Yeah. So let's close it, and then as we resume, then group 4 should have everything ready for their presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And please let us know when the next session is ready.
Sure, Prof.
Thank you.